Gemara in Gittin on Daf Nun Hey and Beis, starting on Daf Nun Hey and Beis, tells us the story of the Churban Beis Hamikdash, and it says because of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza Charav Yerushalayim, because of the story that happened in Kamtza and Bar Kamtza, Yerushalayim was destroyed. Gemara tells us that there was a person who was making a Suda, and he sent his messenger to go and call Kamtza, and instead of calling Kamtza, he called Bar Kamtza. Now, it happened to be that he was friendly with Kamtza, but he was an enemy of Bar Kamtza. And he called Bar Kamtza, and Bar Kamtza came. Bar Kamtza is sitting by the Suda, and the person notices him, and he says, "What are you doing over here?" He said, "Well, invited. Once I'm here, at least, let me stay." He said, "No." He said, "Well, I'll pay for the whole Suda." He said, "No." He said, "I'll pay for half. I'll pay for my whole Suda." "No." He said, "I'll pay for half of the entire Suda." "No." "I'll pay for the entire Suda." "No." And he had him dragged out of there and sent away. So Bar Kamtza said, since the Beis Hamikdash, since the Chachamim was sitting over there and they were not moicha, they didn't object to this mistreatment that I got. I'm going to go do something against them. And he went and he snitched. He made up a story that that Klal Yisrael was against the king, and he said to prove it by bringing a carbon, and he made a mum in the carbon that wasn't considered a mum by going, but for Yidden it would be considered a mum. And that's how the Churban Beis Hamikdash started. That's how the actual Churban Beis Hamikdash started. There are a number of questions on this story. One question is I understand that if the person doesn't like you, and you're there and you try to get to stay, fine, you'll object. But if the person's willing to pay for half your chasana or for half a whole chasana, you're not going to want to, and you're going to send the guy out. There was such a hatred over there that he couldn't stand that the guy would be there by his simcha. What's the big deal if he was there by his simcha? The next question is, why were the chacham actually not moicha? Why didn't they object? Why didn't they object? It was such an avlo, such a nasty thing to do. Why didn't they object? And I think the third thing you could ask is that why did Bar Kamtza come? Why didn't he realize that he's not exactly friendly with this guy? You see that this person hated him so much that he couldn't stand that he'd be by simcha. So why did he come in the first place? And why did the shliach make the mistake? So the Mashra answers the last question, and he says that the reason why the shliach made a mistake and why Bar Kamtza thought that he would be invited is because he says Bar Kamtza was actually the son of Kamtza. Kamtza was the father, and Bar means the son of, was the son of Kamtza. And Kamtza was friendly with this person who was making the Suda. So Bar Kamtza thought, no, maybe he's not friendly with me, but for covet of my father, he's making up with him. He's trying to be on his good side, and he's going to invite me to come along. And that's why the shliach sent him, and that's why the person actually went. When the person came there, and he realized that, the person making the simcha realized that Bar Kamtza was there, he sent him away. And the reason why he sent him away was, possibly, the Mashal does not say this, but the reason why possibly he sent him away is because he was not a Talmud Chacham. And in times of Chazal, Chachamim were very careful not to even talk with the Am Ha'aretz in the street. Am Ha'aretz was considered someone who was tamei, not careful on Tumah Tahara, and even the spit, saliva, or something that would come out of him would make a person tamei. And if it would go on a Kohen Gadol, the Gemara brings the story where he went on a Kohen Gadol's clothing and he turned white and he ran to go and toivel. He was terrified because he just became tamei, and they wouldn't talk to them in the street. And it's even brought down in Shulchan Aruch about sitting together with the Am Ha'aretz. So they wouldn't want to sit down and talk with the Am Ha'aretz. They wouldn't want to sit down and talk with them. They wouldn't stand and talk with them in the street. And here the person standing by the Suda, especially in the days where they were makbid on Tumah v'Tahara, they ate the chulim v'Tahara, they ate the chulim when it was tar as if it was a carbon sometimes. And this person came over there, no one else is going to stay by the Suda. If I was making the Suda and a person came and every other person would run away because they're afraid he has corona, everyone would run away. I would want the guy to leave. So this person who's worse than that, he's making tumah over here. Of course, he's going to want him to leave. So no matter how much the person would want to pay, he's not interested in having him. He's not interested in having him by the Suda. And that's why the Chacham were not moicha. They didn't object because he did the right thing. He's an Am Ha'aretz, and the person's Am Ha'aretz doesn't belong in the place where he's going to ruin it for everybody else. If you have a person who's contagious, he's going to spread his tumah. We don't want him over here. There's nothing wrong with what the person did. It wasn't an avlo. But the Gemara tells us that Kamtza and Bar Kamtza Charav Yerushalayim. What did Kamtza do wrong? Kamtza was just a person who happened to be invited. So simply you say because it's Kamtza and Bar Kamtza, because of the story that happened with the mix-up of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. But if the explanation we just said is correct, then we can understand why it says Kamtza. Because Kamtza did not train his son properly. Kamtza may have been invited. He had been a Talmid Chacham. He was a person who understood what Tumah and Tahara is. But his son, Bar Kamtza, was this Amma Aretz. His son, Bar Kamtza, is a person that people don't want him around. What happened to the training of being mechanech our children? That's the message by including Kamtza. Of course, there are many messages over here. And I think the main message is what Chazal tell us, which is sinas chinam. Not to have hatred to other people. Not to have hatred to another Yid. And the message by including Kamtza is to tell us that it's not just a job that we ourselves should not have it. We should make sure to impart this message and train our children that sinas chinam is something that is so destructive. It destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. And when we get rid of this, the cause of the destruction, we'll be able to be zoicha to have the Beis Hamikdash from Hei Rav Yameinu.